All right, you guys, this is Alligation lecture video number 4, and we are going to pick right back up with practice problems D, number 3. So number 3 reads that a physician orders 20 grams of a 15% ointment. Available are 2 acid ointments and 12% and 25%. So just like before, I'm going to identify my components. So when it says that a physician, whatever a physician is ordering is the prescription. So it says 20 grams of a 15%. And then it says availability. So whatever is available is the stock. And it gives us 2 concentrations, which are both expressed in percentages. And it tells me that it's a 12% and it tells me it's a 25%. So before I move on, this problem could be either a concentration, a dilution, or an alligation. Well, I have 3 concentrations here. I have a 15%, I have a 12%, and I have a 25%. All 3 of these concentrations are expressed as percentages, but because I have 3 concentrations, then I know this is an alligation problem. So I'm going to draw my alligation grid, which is basically the basic tic-tac-toe grid. And you're going to take the highest stock concentration and place it in the top left-hand corner. That 25 in the top left-hand corner. You're now going to take the lowest concentration and place it in the lower left-hand corner, which is 12. And you're going to place that desired concentration, which is 15, in the middle. So before I move on, you have to ask yourself, does the desired concentration of 15 fall in between 12 and 25? Well, if I count from 12 to 25, I am going to come across 15. So the answer is yes. So that means I can move on by completely filling in and finding the parts needed for each percentage. So if I subtract 25 minus 15, I'm going to get 10 parts needed for the 12%. And then I'm going to subtract 12 from 15, which gives me 3 parts. Remember, even though it's a negative, we always keep it in absolute value. So I'm going to need 3 parts of the what? The 25%. So the next step before doing anything else, I asked myself that given quantity, which is that 20 grams, does it go to that highest percentage of 25? Does it go to the lowest percentage, which is 12? Or does it go to the desired percentage of 15%? Well, it goes to the desired, which means that I'm going to have to get my total parts needed by adding the 3 and the 10, which gives me 13 total parts. And now I'm going to solve for both percentages. So for the 25%, I'm going to take the parts needed, which is 3, over the total parts of 13 and multiply it by that given quantity of 20 grams. I'm going to do the same thing for that 12%, where I take the parts needed, which is 10, over the total parts of 13. And I'm going to multiply that by the given quantity of 20 grams. And I'm going to solve it for both. So for the 25%, your answer should be 4.6 grams. For the 12%, your answer should be 15.4 grams. If you add the 2 together, that 4.6 plus 15.4, you should get 20 total grams. Well, that's right. So now that I've solved it, I know that the 3 parts that I need for the 25% is in detail 4.6 grams. And the 10 parts that I need of the 12% is in detail 15.4 grams. All right. So let's try another one. We're going to stay on the same page here. I'm now on number 4 on page 543. And it says that you are to prepare 500 milliliters of a 15% potassium chloride solution using 20% and a 5%. So you identify your components first. So whatever you're preparing is your prescription. So it says I'm preparing 500 milliliters of a 15%. Okay? And it says that you're using, whatever you're using is what you have in stock. You're using a 20% and you're using a 5%. So the first thing I asked myself, what type of problem is it? Well, I'm given 3 concentrations, which are all expressed in percentages, a 15%, a 20%, and a 5%. Because I'm given 3 concentrations, then I know that this is an alligation problem. So my highest stock percentage goes in the top left-hand corner, which is 20. My lowest stock percentage, which is 5, goes in the lower left-hand corner. And that desired, what I'm preparing, percentage goes in the middle. All right. So before you do anything else, you ask yourself, does that desired percentage fall in between your highest and your lowest? Well, if I count from 5 to 20, I'm going to come across 15. So that means the answer is yes. Now you can go ahead and completely fill in your grid. So if I subtract 20 from 15, I get 5 parts needed for my 5%. If I subtract 5 from 15, then I get what? 10 parts needed for my 20%. All right. So the next question you ask yourself, the given quantity, which is 500 milliliters, does it go to your highest percentage, your lowest percentage, or your desired? Well, it goes to my desired because it says 500 milliliters of a 15%. So because it goes to my desired, I'm going to have to get my total parts. So if I add 10 parts needed for the 20 and 5 parts needed for the 5%, that means I have are in need of 15 total parts. So now I'm going to have to solve for both of these percentages. So for the 20%, I'm going to take the 10 parts needed over the total of 15 parts needed and multiply it by that given quantity of 500 milliliters. And you're going to do the same thing for your 5%. You're going to take the parts needed, which is 5, over the total parts, which is 15, and multiply it by 500 milliliters. When you solve for both, for the 20%, you're going to need, 333.3 milliliters. For the 5%, you are going to need 166.7 milliliters. If you add the two together, if you take 333.3 and add 166.7, your total is going to be 500 milliliters. So that means my answer is correct. So in detail, the 10 parts that's needed for your 20% in detail, that's really 333.3 milliliters. I'm sorry. And for that 5%, it tells you that we need 5 parts needed, but we've calculated in detail what the amount of that 5 parts is, which is 166.7 milliliters. If you add the two together, you get a total of 500 milliliters.